Hi there, I'm Nadine Blom. I'm an attorney and I have a passion to help protect people and ensure personal safety. These talks are going to be directed at a very interesting topic, and that is human trafficking. And when you hear the word, you might think that this does not exist in South Africa. That's something you've only seen in movies. Well, rest assured, or should I say, be vigilant, it actually does occur in South Africa. There's two different forms of human trafficking. The one is internal human trafficking, and the other one is external. And these two forms of human trafficking differs in the sense that internal trafficking is trafficking across provincial borders, and external trafficking is trafficking of people across borders. I'm going to quickly share the definition of human trafficking with you, as it's such a wide definition. Human trafficking is actually the recruitment, the transportation, the transfer, the harboring, and the receipt of persons. And this can be done by means of a threat, by means of coercing someone, by force, by abduction, by fraud. It can also be by the abuse of power or abusing someone's vulnerability. And we'll go a little bit deeper into that later on in the remaining videos. So it also means that someone who has control over someone else for the main goal, or the main goal being to exploit someone, to make money off of someone. And this can include the various forms of human trafficking. Can be sex trafficking, in other words, sexual exploitation, online exploitation, forced labor, slavery. It can be for the use of harvesting someone's organs. It can be for slavery, servitude, and so forth. So there's a whole heap of terminologies and so forth, and it sounds quite complicated. And I'm going to try and break it down in this video series so that people out there can be vigilant, so that people can be informed that human trafficking is not necessarily when someone is abducted. It can also be when someone in your own family exploits you to make money off of you. For instance, we had a case recently where a young girl was sold by her own mother to clients for sex. This was also a case of human trafficking, or then sex trafficking. So there's different ways and techniques in which these syndicates of traffickers work. We're going to get down to the nitty-gritty, the what, the how, the why, the who, and then also what can I do? How can I ensure my own personal safety? And how can I try and ensure the safety of others around me? If I see something, who do I report it to? Where do I go and talk to someone? How can I open up this injustice that's going on around me? You might very well ask, how does human traffickers get access to people? How do they recruit people? It's a very interesting question because it usually goes along with concepts such as grooming, manipulating, trapping people, scouting for people online. There's various techniques. I always call human trafficking the crime of complexity, because it's such a complex occurrence, and it's a worldwide crisis. It's actually a global crisis. People also often ask statistics, and I'm very trepidatious. I don't like talking numbers, because human trafficking is a clandestine crime. It's very hidden. And so that the true numbers we'll never know, because so many of these cases are never reported. People go missing all the time, every day. You might know of someone who's gone missing that was never found. There's various instances in newspapers of people who goes missing, but they're not reported necessarily as human trafficked, because we don't know whether they're trafficked until we have found them. Sometimes people go missing because they were abducted for, a certain amount of money, or they were abducted because the human traffickers wanted, the syndicates needed an organ, or a child for sexual exploitation, or an adult for sexual exploitation, or pornography, or whatever the case may be. So you might ask yourself also, why is it such a big industry? Now, think about this concept. A human being can be sold and resold and resold and resold. Whereas when you sell drugs, it can only be sold once, and then the user uses the drugs. Whereas in the case of a human, the human can, for instance, be sold for sex trafficking, in other words, exploitation, into slavery. And then from there on, let's say after a year, 2 or 3, when this poor victim has developed so many scars after being tortured and raped, etc., this victim they might start to use this victim as a drug mule, or they might even harvest the organs of this victim and sell off the organs. So there's many various reasons for this. One of the biggest reasons for human trafficking being such a major industry is money. The approximate profit of human trafficking per year is 150 billion US dollars. You can imagine how much money that is. So, human trafficking occurs in South Africa. We've had many victims, and we like to call them survivors, come forward, but it's not something that happens regularly because victims are so scared that they might be re-trafficked, that these traffickers might catch up with them and put them back into the trafficking cycle. In the next video, we're going to talk a little bit about how this is done. So make sure you don't miss out. There will be a series of videos, and in the end, I will definitely give you some tips as to how you can ensure your own personal safety. Stay with me.